Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to the Thai Expat Daily Show live stream. Today is Wednesday, the 8th of November, 2023. 6 weeks to Christmas. God, isn't things flying by. But before we do get into today's show, don't forget to like this video and please do subscribe to the channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click that notification bell. This show will be later updated and available on all podcast players. And finally, if you like the show, if you want to support the show, you can do so by looking down below in the link, and you can buy us a coffee through buymeacoffee.com. So now that's all done and dusted, let's jump into the top stories doing the rounds here in Thailand today. Now, so before we start, let's have a quick look at the viewer activity, make sure everything is okay. Excellent strength. Good morning, Stephen Casper, as usual. Thank you for tuning in today. Everything's looking pretty good. Okay, so we're going to start off with the we're going to jump into the main story that's on it today, which is about the road deaths here in Thailand, because it's just staggering the amount of people dying on the roads at the moment in Thailand, and there seems to be very little being done about it by anybody for that matter. It just doesn't seem to be an agenda here for the government. I don't quite understand why not. But nevertheless, yesterday, now this information comes from the Thai RSC website, which is very, very accurate, and it gives you all the information that you need to know about the roads and the state of the roads here in Thailand. So yesterday we had 48 people die on the roads here in Thailand, with 2,565 injured. Now that brings the total this year to nearly 675,000 people injured on the roads in Thailand, and 11,840 people have been killed on the roads in Thailand this year. And that is a staggering amount of people for a country the size of Thailand. You know, it's an awful amount of people, But we can even break that down further. By the way, this morning we've already had 2 people die on the road, and it's not even 7 a.m. with 126 people injured. So I mean, the numbers are staggering. But nevertheless, how does it break down? Well, if you want to break it down by gender, 76% are men and 24% are female. And then if we look at the kind of the mode of transport used, 80% motorcycle accidents, 19% cars, and then 1% are unknown. I presume 1% unknown are probably pedestrians. But if we also look at then the age group, the highest age group where this is happening is is males between 36 and 60 years of age. At nearly 38% of all deaths are through that. And finally, what time is the most dangerous time to drive in Thailand, where the most deaths occur, according to the stats for the year? Okay, 7 o'clock in the evening. That's the most dangerous time to drive here in Thailand. 7 o'clock in the evening, between 7 and 8. That's where the most deaths have occurred. Okay, and kind of the hours before that and after that, very, very dangerous. And then also, a lot of deaths though as well in the 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Of course, a lot of the reason behind that are people coming home from night entertainment venues drunk, driving and things like that. So the numbers are pretty high for a country with the same population, let's say, as the UK. And it can be considered quite depressing. So as I always say, when people tend to want to come to Thailand, I see a lot of forums, people coming on, oh, I'm coming to Thailand, I'm going to rent a motorbike. What do I need to rent a motorbike? I don't have a license from my own country. I've never driven a motorbike before, but I'm going to rent one because everybody does it. Well, for those kind of people coming here who have zero experience, as I always say, leave the motorbike in the motorbike rental shop. Don't be renting a motorbike. If you don't have the experience, if you've never ridden a motorbike, Thailand is not the place to start learning. It's always going to end up in disaster, when things like that happen. But we're going to jump into the first story, and I know a guy claimed I was too much Phuket orientated, but to give you an example here of what I'm talking about in relation to the deaths. An American man and a Luxembourg woman killed in a motorbike accident. A 21-year-old American man and a 19-year-old woman from Luxembourg were killed when the motorbike they were riding was struck from behind by a car on Wiset Rd in Rawai earlier yesterday morning. The police were informed about the accident at 1 a.m. So, of course, at those hours where you shouldn't be really driving. And police, along with rescue workers, arrived at the scene near the entrance to Friendship Beach Resort to find a grey Phuket registered BYD car with heavy damage to its front left and left in a ditch beside the road. The driver, Irina Puskalova, 41, had sustained injuries in the accident and had been taken to hospital before police arrived. Nearby was a Honda Click, bearing a Phuket-issued red license plate that was nearly destroyed by its impact with a powerful pole. Among the debris beside the power pole was a blue helmet. So they were even wearing a helmet and that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. In the grass nearby was the body of the 21-year-old American man who had been identified as the driver of the motorbike. Also nearby was the body of a 19-year-old woman from Luxembourg who was sitting on the back of the motorbike at the time of the accident. The bodies of both victims were taken to Vishira Hospital for post-mortem examination. Police are continuing their investigation into the accident. And of course, the names were not released of the people who passed away. And then that, RIP to both of them. It's a terrible thing. As the report says, only one motorbike helmet was found. And even at that, many of the motorbike helmets that are issued to people here in the country are well below the standard that would be allowed in Europe or America for whatnot. And if you these are the things that happen. Red Plate Motorbike. This means it was a new bike and probably guaranteed there was no insurance on it. And guarantee you that the people driving it probably hadn't got the experience necessary to be driving a motorbike. And then, of course, we have the person who was involved, the other person, another foreign national, a Russian lady, also involved in it, was the one who hit them. And motorbikes. And if you're not used to driving in Thailand, if you're not used to even being in a car, looking out for motorbikes on the road can be a very, very difficult thing. A lot of the time, motorbikes don't have lights on the back of them. I don't understand why not. I mean, they're not working, or some people actually purposely turn them off. I've seen a lot of motorbikes on the road with no lights on the back. And how are you meant to see them when you're driving? So that obviously plays into it. And it's unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. But I think if something is to be learned from this, that it's about time that the government started to take this a lot more seriously than it does. We see when there's any problems with Thais abroad, like with the issue in Israel at the moment, and trying to get Thai nationals back home, it's a huge thing. Oh, it's an emergency, must take that. When we had COVID, it was an emergency, must take that. But the biggest killer of people in this country are road deaths, but yet never taken seriously. No, the only time you'll see an action plan is around Christmas and around the Thai New Year. That's the only time the police will go out and do a bit, and then pat themselves on the back, tell what a great job we did. Not as many people died last year as this year, and a week later, twice as many people died, and the numbers have balanced themselves back up again. They just don't seem to have an interest in stopping it, and a lot of that can stem from the fact that we've seen many laws being brought into this country in the last couple of years. The laws are brought in, and then a week later, the police say, we can't enforce that. So it's all done and dusted. An example would be the back of pickup trucks. People are not meant to be inside them. And then that rule was brought in. And then a month later, the police say, we need more time to look at that. How are people going to get to work? And all this kind of stuff. Rules brought in about baby seats. Are that being adhered to? Guarantee it or not. So there's plenty of rules and regulations for the roads, but nobody ever there to actually implement the law behind it. And I think that fundamentally is part of the issue. And then, of course, driver education and, driving standards is another thing far behind it. But the only way you're ever going to start to change things is unless you actually have enforcement of the current laws. But we'll move along to another story that's coming out of Thailand today. Thais rescued from scammers in Myanmar to return via China. More than 160 Thais tricked into working illegally for scam gangs in Laukkaing township of Myanmar will be brought home through China's Yunnan province and faced no immigration charges. The Foreign Affairs Minister said on Tuesday the 162 rescue Thais had been lured to Laukkaing town in the self-administered Cowan zone of Shan State. They had already been evacuated to a safe area and were undergoing nationality verification. Now, assuming everything's checked out, they will be taken to Laukkaing City in China's Yunnan province, about 4 kilometers from Laukkaing, the minister said. All 162 were safe. Officials at the Thai embassy in Yangon were providing travel documents, Mr. Parn Pri said. Now, Police General Surachart Hakparn, better known as Big Joke, a deputy national chief overseeing their return, said in Yangon on Tuesday that although they had entered Myanmar illegally, authorities there agreed to spare them from immigration charges. This was a sign of the good relations between Myanmar and Thai immigration police. No, did they have police? I thought it was all the army still days. He had met Myanmar immigration chief Mang Tan to discuss assistance for the 162 Thais. It was agreed it was best to speed up the process and ensure their safe repatriation, given the tense situation in Shan State. There were pregnant women among the returnees, Police Major General Surachat said. So, interesting. They were scammed going to Myanmar, but it doesn't say what the scams were. Now, that's all being kept fairly hush-hush. It would be interesting if there was a bit more details as exactly how they were tricked and scammed to go into Myanmar. It wouldn't be the kind of place I'd be thinking, I want to go to Myanmar to go work, with plenty of other countries around. So it'll be interesting if it comes out later on what exactly they were scammed into doing. Now, move on to another story. This story has been quite funny because it just shows exactly the mentality of the government, how, it hasn't changed from, let's say, the junta government that we've had since 2014 to now. It's still the same chaos. So Anatan Sharavakul, he's the Ministry of the Interior, former Minister of Health, the gentleman who called all foreigners dirty farangs, just to clarify who he is. He clarifies the alcohol sales for the 4 a.m. closing. So the Interior Minister, Anatan Sharavakul, issued a clarification yesterday, saying that night spots in the 4 areas where opening hours will be extended will be able to serve alcohol until 4 a.m. under their existing licenses. Mr. Anatan earlier said although bar opening hours in Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Chonburi and Phuket would be extended until 4 a.m, alcohol sales times would not be extended. His remarks drew criticism from night spot operators. Well, of course it did. I might have been a little wrong because I talked about several issues. Entertainment venues can open until 4 a.m. and can sell alcohol until their existing licenses, the minister said on Tuesday. Entertainment venues inside hotels could also stay open till 4 a.m. The Department of Provincial Administration Director General would give further details about it, Mr. Anatan said. However, restaurants could serve alcohol only until midnight, he said. Now, the president of the Khao San Road Business Association had earlier expressed his disappointment that the government's policy to extend opening hours of entertainment venues in those areas until 4 a.m. did not include extending hours for the sale of alcohol beverages. He said it was contradictory to stimulating tourism, saying it would not lead to increased tourist spending. He said the drinking behaviour of foreign tourists differed from that of Thai clubbers who like to buy a bottle of spirits with mixers and drink it until closing time. Foreigners usually ordered single drinks one after another, he said. If entertainment venues could not serve alcohol during the extended hours, there was no point in extending opening hours, he said. The government had never invited any night spot operators to give their views on the matter, even though they were the major stakeholders, Mr. Sangha said. Now, the Thai Restaurant Association echoed Mr. Sangha's view that it was impractical to allow longer hours, yet only also allow sales until the extended closing time 4 a.m. The association also pointed out the different drinking habits of foreigners and Thais. So again, Mr. Anatan, he did this all during COVID as well, always misinformation. You never knew whether you were coming or going with him and what exactly was going on. But it's a trend. It's a trend of government ministers talking about things that they have very little clue about, giving information that's wrong, and then having to clarify that information later again, which causes even more confusion. So Mr. Anatan says that, and clearly says that, it'll be, based on their existing license. Well, the existing licenses only allow you to serve alcohol till 2 a.m. So again, it throws up a spanner into the works a bit. I saw another article that was written and they discussed that there's going to be a need for consultation before all this can happen, because there's other laws that need to be changed to allow this to happen, and whether they'll actually be able to do it on December 15th remains, to be seen. I'm not sure. Look, as I said, I'm not sure extending drinking hours is a really great idea here in the country. I think 2 a.m., I don't think there's anything wrong with 2 a.m. Of course, they'll say, well, by having it till 4 a.m., it cuts out the bribes to stay open, because we all know in many tourist area clubs stay open late, much later than the legal operating hours, and then they're paying money under the table. So they're saying that money is going to be cut out now, but I guarantee you they're going to find a way. Those people who are having their money cut are going to find another way to keep that income coming in. So I don't think it's over at all. Now we'll move on to the last story of today, probably one of them, a very important one too. It's about Chiang Mai. And Chiang Mai Tourism seeks action against seasonal smog, and that's obviously going to be a big thing. Chiang Mai's tourism leaders are calling for urgent government action to address the city's hazardous smoke problem as the peak season approaches. The group is advocating for the expedited passage of the Clean Air Act and the implementation of effective measures to mitigate pollution, particularly from agricultural practices. Now, the Tourism Council President Pumlok Seju has highlighted the complex nature of the PM 2.5 haze issue, stressing the need for a collaborative approach involving incentives for compliance and penalties for violations within the proposed legislation. The council also suggests that the government should reward farmers who abstain from slash and burn techniques by supporting their crop production and finding alternative livelihoods for those who rely on forest burning for income. To fund the pollution reduction initiatives, a proposal for a dedicated fund has been put forth, which could offer tax incentives to investors. The fund would also support the transformation of local agricultural practices to more environmentally friendly methods and provide the necessary equipment to help control burning and smog. The private sector, including Chiang Mai University, is now working on technological solutions like air purifier towers, and the province has introduced a reservation system for controlled agricultural burning for better manage and reduce the incidence of unregulated fires. Now, despite their efforts and the return of tourists to the region, there is concern among industry operators about the long-term impact of the smog on Chiang Mai's image, particularly with the long-stay visitors and digital nomads who tend to leave during the smog's peak season. Again, completely understand where they're coming from and what they're talking about. Now, the smog last season was probably one of the worst ever. I think most people can agree about that, and it was very bad. And you need to ask yourself, what has been done since then to now to improve that? What has the government put together to tackle the same problem that occurs every single year and is getting worse and worse and worse? And you know what the answer to that is? They've done nothing. Absolutely zero. What they did was they let it pass. When it cleared, they say nothing, and then they wait till next year and they'll give you the same old nonsense. This time it won't be Prayut talking, but it'll be Prime Minister Tavisin talking, and you'll find it'll be the same words coming out of his mouth that came out of Prayut's mouth. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we'll need to look at this, and nothing will ever get done. They've allowed now Chiang Mai Airport to be open 24 hours because they expecting loads of tourists to come in. That's what they're talking about. A 24-hour airport, which is now available and open. The hours have been established, and their goal is this huge amount of tourists to come in here. No tourist is going to Chiang Mai, right, if the air is toxic and hazardous, and you can't see outside when you look outside. You've seen the pictures of what it looks like up there. No tourist is going up there in that. So one thing to open the airport in the expectation of lots of tourists, but then you don't create the correct environment for tourists to come. You will still have the same problems, and the problems from last year and the years before are going to continue because nothing has been done. They haven't even passed the act that they were going to bring in, the legislation they were going to bring in. They haven't even done it yet. Nothing has been done. And I think that's terrible for people who live in Chiang Mai, for the population who live there, Thais and foreigners who try to get on with the day-to-day life, knowing that for a few months they're going to be barely able to breathe. Hospitals are going to be full with people going in with all kinds of lung issues, etc., and health issues. And then businesses in Chiang Mai who spend their hard-earned money, who finally got through COVID, and are still looking at this with nothing being done about it. And then, of course, the tourist who turns up and thinking it's going to be a lovely place to go to, which Chiang Mai is, by the way. One of the most... I've been to Chiang Mai 3 or 4 times. I love the place. And I'll be going back again the end of this month. But you're not going to be going there in February or March. And that's the terrible thing about it. It's destroyed by what the practices and what's going on. And by the way, not just Thai farmers, but surrounding areas too. And it needs to be an overall approach. But ASEAN as an organization seems to be spineless and toothless, and they never deal with any issues anyway. So that's what you're left with. But anyway, that is it for today, folks. Delighted, as always, for you tuning in for this live stream today. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, bright and early. If you have any questions, you have any comments, leave them all down in the comment section. And we'll get back to you. But once again, thanks again for tuning in. Have a great Wednesday. Stay safe out there. And thanks once again.